SESAC fed people, and welcome to Sound 88, your place to get the confidence to try things yourself. Welcome to the show. My name is Andy Frank. I'm a music producer and graphic designer. And if this is your first time, definitely consider to subscribe if you're into independent music or making your own beats and doing things, or at least trying things yourself. Definitely this is your channel. Right, so today's video, I'm going to talk about the importance of registering with a performance rights organization such as BMI or ASCAP. Whether you're an artist or a music producer, particularly, or a beat maker, I'm going to try to go over some of the different steps you can take in order for you to register, at least early enough in case an opportunity comes down the line, you would know that you have everything registered. All right, so let's go to this first step. First of all, what's a performance rights organization, right? And some of the most popular ones in the United States include BMI, ASCAP, and SESAC. Now, probably most artists would be, especially independent artists or composers, they'll probably be with BMI and ASCAP. Why? Because there's no, you can just go on their site and actually apply to register with them. Whereas SESAC is a little bit different, is by invitation only. So what's the role of these performance rights organizations, and why should we sign up with them? So what they do is they collect license fees from businesses that use music. So any businesses that play music at the store, or they are requesting sync licensing to play your songs. If you are an artist or composer registered with any of these organizations, they actually collect those fees for you. So who should register with BMI and ASCAP? Songwriters, definitely, and also beat makers and composers. And I'm going to go over that in a minute, right? Beat makers / composers. And I know a lot of music producers wants to know, hey, am I a composer or should I just register as a songwriter? So we're going to go over that in a little bit. All right. Next thing is, what are the differences between publishing and royalties? And as you guys can see, I have the logo of BMI and another organization called SoundExchange. These two play a major role in publishing and royalties. When it comes to publishing, these are the rights associated to the actual music composition, such as the notes, melodies, lyrics, etc. So anything regarding the copyright ownership of those songs. Now, royalties, that's the money received by artists, record labels, or recording studios who own the master rights anytime the recorded song gets played. So pretty simple. So royalties, that's the money coming in from music being played. Publishing, who owns that song. The next step is SoundExchange. I definitely wanted to go over that as well, because a lot of people know about BMI, a lot of people know about ASCAP, but SoundExchange, unless you start diving deeper, then you might know about it. But a lot of people don't know about it. So I wanted to go over that as well. So what is SoundExchange and what's their role pretty much? SoundExchange collects royalties for all sound recordings played on non-interactive digital radio. And what do they mean by that? So non-interactive digital radio is pretty much things like Pandora, things like even if you are on a if you are with Spotify, for instance, and you have a couple of skips that you can do, or you can't choose the song that you want to play because you're on a free account, pretty much. If you are on a free account, you can't necessarily choose all the songs you want to play. So these are non-interactive streaming. So SoundExchange actually collect money for you if your song end up being played from a non-interactive stream. So these sounds, this includes recordings and soundtracks made by actors, comedians, and spoken word artists, in addition to musicians. Very important. So if you are an actor, if you are a comedian, if you do have poetry like spoken words and stuff, you can actually collect money like that as well. And that's what SoundExchange can do for you. Now, let's establish a key difference between BMI and SoundExchange. BMI and SoundExchange, it's like pretty much digital versus live. So SoundExchange will collect money for you for things like that are related to digital streaming or radio, internet radio, XM satellite and stuff like that. Whereas BMI, you can perform, or you have your song being played on streaming platforms and stuff like that. These are considered public or live. But non-interactive digital streamings, that's for SoundExchange. So for Pandora, Sirius, and other non-interactive mediums, SoundExchange is needed to collect songwriter royalties from them, whereas BMI will collect royalties for public performances such as radio or restaurants. All right. Now, the next thing I wanted to talk about just a little bit is music reports. Again, this is when you start going deeper down the rabbit hole to realize what organization can get you some money. Where does that money come from? So music reports is mainly focused on sync licensing. So it is said that Music Report is a comprehensive music licensing platform that allows publishers to opt into dozens of direct licenses from digital music services, fitness companies, karaoke services, and other music licensees. So it's a good thing to take a look at Music Report, especially if you're trying to submit your songs for placements or for sync licensings. Music Report probably is a good one to take a look at. Now, a very interesting topic as well, and that's for publishing administrative services. Now, see, all the things we talked about from BMI, ASCAP, SoundExchange, and Music Reports, you can collect money from them, but chances are it can be tricky and difficult unless you have a publishing administrative service from either a company such as TuneCore or a company such as, I think SongTrust. SongTrust does that as well. So publishing administrative services, what do they do? Okay, so they essentially collect money from all these organizations or companies, businesses, and they do that for a fee. And what they do, they collect that information and the money that you're supposed to be paid, and they send that over to the performance rights organization that you're with, whether ASCAP, whether BMI, and then BMI/ASCAP, they cut the check to the artist, producer, composer, whichever you sign up as. So that's the difference. So technically, you need to have a BMI account, BMI account or ASCAP account before you even sign up with organizations such as TuneCore Publishing, which is different than TuneCore, which is just for distribution. You can sign up with TuneCore Publishing and companies like SongTrust. However, you can't do both, really, because if you sign up with both, that's you telling them going to go after the money for the same song, but you're getting paid twice for the same song, if that makes sense. So one way or another, you probably will end up having to pay it back, stuff like that. So you kind of have to choose either TuneCore Publishing or SongTrust, but not both. All right. So TuneCore Publishing, SongTrust, they try to collect global mechanical royalties, global performance royalties, global micro sync royalties, global print royalties. So these are the things that they try to collect on behalf of the artist. Now, what's the difference between TuneCore Publishing and SoundExchange? Because a lot of times these are questions that I ask myself, like, what are these two? Because the nuances between what they do is so close that it can really get confusing. So I'm here to break it down a little bit, like how I would see it, like what do these two do? What's the difference? So that's according to TuneCore. TuneCore Publishing Administration collects royalties for the songwriter of the composition. SoundExchange administers a statutory license that allows streaming services to stream sound recordings while paying a fixed rate for each play. Also, SoundExchange collects and distributes royalties for the featured artists and the sound recording copyright owner when content is played on a non-interactive digital source, such as satellite radio. So these are the two things between TuneCore Publishing and SoundExchange, if that makes sense. Now, very, very important. Producers and beat makers. Typically, we tend to think they're pretty much the same. And a lot of times, you're probably right. A lot of times people will make beats. They also help the artist develop the whole song structure and the whole idea and having the vision for it. But it's not always the case. And that's very important when it's time to register with a performance rights organization. Some producers, they have nothing to do with the musical components of the song. They're here to hear the beat, hear the idea, give the ideas for to the artist, the whole team, give the whole vision and set it off. But they never played an instrument. They were never part of the musical component of the whole project. But yet they're the producer. That's a producer. Now, a beat maker, they're involved in the musical components of making a song. That's a really key difference. Why? When it comes down to registering with BMI or ASCAP, you can register as a composer if you are a beat maker. Because I get confused. I used to get confused a lot in the past. And I know some of you might say to yourself, I don't write songs. But when I go on BMI, for instance, I see composer, I know I make beats, but I don't even play an instrument like that. Is it composer like a classical artist or anything? No, a composer, anybody who makes the sounds for something, and they can be a songwriter as well. But a composer, if you're a beat maker, you're a composer. That's spoiler alert. And if you are a producer, it doesn't necessarily mean you are a composer. If you don't take part of the musical components, well, you're not technically a composer. So in my case, for instance, I make my own beats, I write my own songs, I record my own songs, I mixed a lot of my songs, and I try to shoot little videos, I do the artwork, I do different things myself. So technically, I kind of cover a lot of these things as a songwriter, as a beat maker, as a producer, and everything in between. And I know a lot of you guys do that also. So you wanna make sure you get paid for the different tasks you're doing. And that's the beauty of registering the right way. If you think you're never gonna be writing a song or anything like that, well, if you're just a beat maker and that's what you want to focus on, you can just register as a beat maker. In my opinion, I don't think it's a bad thing if you also register as a songwriter, even if you have not written any songs yet, or you don't think you're going to be writing a song at any point. Why not register as a songwriter? If you're into music like that and you're a composer, you're a beat maker, just register as a songwriter as well. Why? Maybe out of nowhere, you might have made a beat for an artist close to you or whatever, and you're bouncing off each other's energy, and you're like, yo, I have this, I don't know, crazy, silly hook idea. You put it together, you wrote something real quick, and then the artist's like, yo, I like this, man. That's dope. Yo, I'll feature you on it. Like, no, that's not. He's like, yo, I'll feature on you. At least I want to give you credits for that. At that point, you don't want to just take credit for as a composer, because at that point you actually wrote something. And if you try to take credit as a songwriter, yeah, it's gonna be listed on the credit, but are you really getting paid? Because BMI you're registered with BMI or ASCAP as a composer only, so that section of songwriting is not really with them. So in my view, you want to do both, man. You never know what can happen, never. And on the side of songwriting, I know for a fact a lot of songwriters, they want to be songwriters or performers. They're not really into the musical components of making a beat. I get it. But a lot of times, man, for composers and beat makers, it's a good thing to probably register as a songwriter as well. Right? So another key difference between BMI and ASCAP. BMI is free if you're registering as a songwriter or as a composer, but you do have to pay I think it's $150 if you're trying to register as a publisher with them, and if you're trying to register as a publishing company with them, I think it's $250, at least at the time of this video. And ASCAP was different between BMI and ASCAP as far as registration is concerned. ASCAP does require $50. I think it's still $50 to register with ASCAP, whether you're a composer or a songwriter. I'm not exactly sure why, but it might be the amount they pay to the artist or the composer, but I'm not entirely sure. But the thing is, they have a difference when it comes to signing up with these two. All right. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and definitely drop a comment if you have any other ideas or thoughts about this process in order to register with BMI. And overall, like I said, I think it's a good idea if you are a beatmaker slash composer to register both as a composer and a songwriter. Why? Because you never know when the opportunity comes down the line. Also, if you are a beatmaker and a producer and you never thought like, why should I register? I'm not a songwriter. Well, it's a good idea to register with BMI or ASCAP and stuff, because the composer part, yes, you are a composer, right? With that being said, I hope you all enjoy, and see you on the next one. Peace.